These techniques had probably the biggest impact on my photography. I have recently realized I have a problem. I buy too many books, and not those cheap Kindle ones, but those beautiful printed, expensive photography books which mostly ended up decorating my wall or coffee table, or in my case, many coffee tables. Buy books not gear is probably the most common answer you are going to get from other fellow photographers when you Google how to improve my photography. Great, but how should you actually do it? And how should you do it effectively so you really get better? Photography books are kind of like Instagram likes. It doesn't really mean you are a great photographer just because you have a lot of them, right? I mean, seriously. Learning is an active process, so you can't expect to get better just because you have the books under your pillow. After a lot of research, I present to you the ultimate guide to photography books and how to learn from them. Or maybe not ultimate, maybe just guide. Our mind is goal-seeking. It not only needs purpose, but it uses it to its great advantage. With a goal in mind, we can absorb consciously, but also subconsciously, much more information much faster. Do you remember that time when you decided what car, phone or dog you wanted to buy, and suddenly you started to see those cars, phones or those dogs everywhere? You saw them much more often, right? Now, it's very unlikely there were suddenly more cars or phones or types of dog you chose, but rather you started to pay attention. There are times when you just pick up a photography book and then go through the pages without any specific goal and it's fine. But let's say you set a goal. You pick up a photography book and just before you open it you stop for a minute and focus on what is it that you want to learn from that book. So let's just say I have this Mary Ellen Mark book and what I want to learn is environmental portrait like she did. So what I want to focus on is how the subject is positioned in the environment and in the frame. What is included, what is left out, is it posed or candid, and so on and so on. Now, looking at the photographs, I can identify those elements, styles or techniques, and it also helps me to understand what is going on there once I see the patterns in her work. There is nothing easier than to buy a book about Paris before you actually go there. But what if you don't live in Paris or New York or can't travel at the moment? Even though you stay at your hometown, it doesn't mean you can't be inspired or creative. I have been admiring this shot taken by my hero Elliot Erwitt for a while, but it was always kind of far to Paris from where I live. Well, I bet that just like you can find similar places to try to replicate the shots you like. The setup is not the only thing you can be inspired by. There are all sorts of things like angles, color combinations, or themes. Don't be afraid to copy your hero photographers because maybe that's how they learned photography, copying their heroes, other photographers or painters. Having many photography books from variety of photographers means there is a high chance you are going to like as well as dislike a lot of photos. Now this is useful because you can actually find what is it that you like or dislike about particular picture. It happened to me recently when I was reading a book by a great photographer and one of my heroes, Joel Marowitz. I found this photograph which looked like a really fun idea, but for some reason I didn't quite like it. And at first I thought, who am I not to like Joel's pictures, right? So I was thinking and comparing other pictures from that book, and suddenly I figured it out. What I didn't like about that photo was part of the frame. I have realized when looking at Merowitz's photographs that his frames are so well composed that you can look almost anywhere in the frame and there will be something interesting. I have checked my Lightroom catalog and confirmed the obvious. This visual noise was something that I didn't like, and the reason I was unable to keep a lot of my shots. My keepers, however, had one thing in common. You guessed it, I have excluded the visual noise or cropped it out in the post process. Now, I'm not saying this is going to make me a master photographer, but actively thinking about what is it that you like or dislike about particular picture is going to help you with your own photography. All you need to do is to ask yourself, do I like this photograph and why? Or what is it that I don't like about this photo? And is there a similar theme? When you look at photography monographs you own, you will notice they are often very different. Even if you own two books from the same photographer, each one expresses different theme, idea or style for each project. You can see what the photographer saw and how he presented it, which I believe should be the goal. You want to show what you saw and how you took the picture. Unlike Instagram or other social networks which seems to favor strong single images without any context, photography books will guide you through the project the artist chose to present. Why the photographer chose those subjects, angles, themes. Was it shot in color or black and white, large format or 35mm? What about sequencing? Those are all the questions you should be asking when you open photography book. Retrospectives are something a little different. Rather than a single topic, they show you the progression and evolution of artist's work. Both monographs and retrospectives can be useful, but it depends on what you're looking for. I probably more prefer monographs than retrospectives, I guess. Let me start by telling you that there are no official rules in photography. You can take pictures in any way you like, of anything you like. It is not like they are going to let you sign a paper that you will have to use the rule of thirds when you buy a new camera, right? But there are some, let's say, ideas transformed into advices people like to call rules. Now, you can take thousands of pictures and then just pick the ones that you like, right? There is nothing wrong about it. Do you have to follow the rules? Absolutely not. There are tools that can be used, but don't have to be. Let me give you an example. Take a look at two images of yours. One is blurry and one is sharp. One of the techniques for your photography can therefore be focusing properly on your subject, and then you might end up with a result you like. However, this doesn't mean blurry photos are bad or anything. You can only take blurry photos, and many photographers do. Your artistic approach can lead you to take only blurry photos. What these techniques aim to teach you is to be able to make decisions by yourself. If you had not been told about focusing, you would end up with some blurry photos and some sharp photos, and you wouldn't know why. We all have different definition of what is a good photograph, right? So what you take those techniques or rules is completely up to you. So you are holding a book of some great photographer, maybe your hero, maybe Anne Cartier-Bresson, and you're going through the pictures. Did he use the rule of thirds or maybe dynamic symmetry? Did he focus on the eyes of the subject? What effect did it have? As I said earlier, learning is an active process, and books are great tools to help us achieve what we want. So next time before you open a photography book, set a goal. Once you do, look for what you like or dislike, look for photography techniques and get inspired. Also let me know if there is a technique that you use to learn from photography books. One book I have recently reviewed on my channel that has beautiful narrative and presentation is Christopher Anderson's Pia. And if you are really into photography books, especially into those that can inspire you, you should definitely check it out. Until then, I will leave you with this: buy books, not gear.